Hey, this is part two of Brian getting scammed. I didn't actually get scammed, but it was close. So anyway, uh, all right. So the second part was I was in the Bond, which is it's spelled Bund, which is like the most touristy part of Shanghai, and it's not. I don't think they have like a street view or anything in Google, but if you look it up, Bund, you'll see basically it's like a spot in the city like by the river that allows you to basically see the city line, like all the financial district, which has all the really nice buildings and everything. And it's a lot better at night because they all have all these neon signs and everything. One sec, I gotta plug in my laptop here. It's gonna freak out on me. And so anyway, they have all these neon signs and the video. If you look it up, you'll totally know what's going on. But anyway, so I was kind of walking around there, basically taking a tour on my phone, and I'm kind of sitting there hanging out on my phone, like reading stuff about whatever bridge that's next to me, and like there's like a park behind me, so I'm just kind of sitting there reading my phone. And all of a sudden, these two kids come up to me. They're like, they can't be any older than like 21, and they're like, "Oh, can you take our picture?" And I was like, okay, cool. So, they sit up and I do the photo thing or whatever, and I give them back their phone. They're like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from the U.S. And they're like, oh, what part, what state? And I was like, oh, above California. Like, oh, California, yes, very famous. L.A., yeah, Charles Bronson. Oh, and they're naming off all these people. Like, oh, very famous. And I was like, yeah, it's cool, whatever. And I'm trying to be nice, and I've been kind of hanging out with myself all day, so I'm cool with talking to people. And um, so anyway, so we started talking, and they're like, "Oh, you should go. We're going to this tea thing." And I was kind of like, "What?" And they're like, "Oh, we're going to this tea festival." And at that point, I kind of knew. I read a little bit about scams, and I kind of knew that like one scam was that like if you're like these people will act as students, and they'll bring you to like a restaurant, in which case they'll have you sit down and talk to you and guys that they're trying to learn their English, and you'll buy like their entire meal, in which case like you have to pay for that whole meal, and it's like six times the price of what it would normally be. So I kind of knew about that, and so I was kind of already wary like right away, but I was like, okay, cool, I'll walk with you guys. Like I'm obviously not going to sit down and have a meal with you because of that, but so I'm sitting there walking with them, and they're asking me questions about like oh, they're saying like they're complimenting me like, oh, how old are you? I'm like, oh, I'm 33. Like, no way, you look like you're 22. And I was like, no. And they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I write programs. So they're like, what? I don't understand. I'm like, I do computers. I'm like, oh, computers. Oh, yeah, it's very hard, very complicated. You must be very smart. And they're trying to teach me Chinese and stuff. In which case, I was like, they're saying, you know, this is how you say thank you and hello, and I'm trying to say it, and like, oh no, I like this, and I'm like, okay. So finally, like, oh wow, you can pronounce it really well, and they're constantly like complimenting me. So again, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, this is kind of not right, but like not enough to like stop entirely and just be like totally a dick and just be like, okay, I'm leaving. But they're nice so far, and they're like, oh, what sports do you do? And at this point, I'm kind of already like, you guys are kind of shady, but they seem nice, and they weren't like scary at all, and there wasn't anything scary going on. It's not like I'm in a dark alley at that point, or like there's nobody around. There's all sorts of people around, and I didn't feel unsafe at any point. But like, what sport do you do? Or like, oh, I do judo, and they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, I throw people for fun, and they're kind of like, oh, and then I was like, yeah. So anyway, so we kind of started walking, and so finally we're walking, and we get to like this building, and first, like, I see the building, and they're kind of going into this building. I'm like, oh, this is kind of not right. And plus, it's not a restaurant, it's a building. It's like an apartment building. And they go into this hallway, and they go directly to the left. Like, they go into this room. And there's these two ladies standing there, and they're like in some formal dress. And it's kind of like, it didn't fit. Like, they were dressed really nice, but the place was kind of shitty. So it wasn't like, it didn't really match. So it was kind of off. And then I kind of like walked in there and looked directly to my left, and they sat down. And obviously the scam that I was talking to you about, I was like, oh, okay, this is the scam. It's like they didn't even like try to like deviate from the normal scam. It was like, they're two students. That was I forgot to say. They said right away, they're like, oh, we're from, you know, a rural part of China. Have you ever heard of it? No. Oh, well, we're students. Okay, so bzz, they got the student thing going on. So then they're going to a tea festival. That's half of it. They said they're going to a festival. So then we go into this room, which is not a festival. It's a room with no windows and like a shitty tapestry on the wall. And so they're like folding chairs. And so it's like, so anyway, they sat down and I didn't even sit down. I was like, no, I gotta go. And I was kind of freaked out. I was like, I didn't know if there's like somebody out like just like hit me with a cudgel there pretty quick, but I was kind of freaked out and I was like, nope, I gotta go. I gotta go meet a friend. And I was like, I shook both their hands because on the off chance that this is like a real thing, I didn't want to be a complete dick, but I was like, okay, I gotta go. And I shook both their hands and I just was like, I left and I was kind of freaked out. I didn't know if someone was gonna follow me because I knew that like the scam was like they were gonna charge you if you like buy something. So I was like halfway expecting someone to like run behind me and be like, "Oh, you owe us like $100 for just entering the room or something." So, I was trying to like, be all like James Bondy and kind of like trying to juke him, like going, I went around a block like once or twice and kind of like did like a figure 8 pattern to make sure no one was following me and like, all my shitty knowledge from spy novels is like trying to pull that off. And so anyway, no one was following me and I finally went back the way I came because that's where all the touristy stuff was. So I went back that way, and they were right back at the bridge, which was awesome. It was like they didn't even care that I knew it was a scam. They knew that I knew, and so they were just like there, like standing there, waiting for the next person. And so I was freaked out for a little bit. I tried to like get back into my like self tour thing. I was on TripAdvisor, and it told me to go back over the bridge again. So I was kind of like, oh fuck these guys. So anyway, so I went over the bridge again, and I went to like my destination thing, and then I went over the bridge again, and they looked at me and they're like, what? Like they thought, because I'm like going back and forth a few times and they didn't know what I was doing. I just waved at them, and anyway, so it's kind of scary at the time, but now I look back at it, it's kind of funny and more of a funny story. And so anyway, I didn't really feel unsafe at the time because these guys were like half my size, and it was like a girl that was like 19 and a guy that was like 21, and they were like, yeah. So anyway, it was cool as far as like, not feeling in danger. It's more of just a funny story. So that's my story. Anyway, hopefully I have more stories to tell you guys, and I'll talk to you later.